All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to everyone out there, November 8th, and we have the biggest NBA slate of the year so far to jump into in today's video. Like we always do, we're gonna go through each and every one of these games. I'm gonna give you my lean on the spread, give you my lean on the total, and any other thoughts on the game, but all of my final plays, what I'm actually rolling with myself. If you do want to fade me, or if you want to ride with me, those plays will be in the pinned comment. I updated throughout the day, always locked in a decent amount of time before the games, all right? So keep an eye on that pinned comment. No games yesterday, but we do have Monday to recap, and we had a 1-1 night, so nothing to write home about, nothing that's going to absolutely kill us. We fell into the Kings money line trap again. 2 times now fell into that trap. It stinks, but I said it in the video. I was like, I think we're falling for the trap again. Seems like a trap, smells like a trap, tastes like a trap. Wouldn't you know it, it was a trap there. But what I'm proud about is the same game parlay. We're staying absolutely hot with the same game parlays to start the year here. Spurs Pacers, we cashed that one. We'll take a cha-ching for that. We absolutely called this correctly here. We had the over 228.5. The game finished with like 200 and a million points. Halliburton 20 plus points plus rebounds, did it in points alone. And then Benedict Mathurin 2+ rebounds here. He had 3 rebounds. So really a no sweat one. The only iffy thing, which you could tell the way the game was trending that it wasn't all that iffy, but these guys did not play that many minutes because the Pacers blew out the Spurs, beat them by 41 points. But nonetheless, we'll take the cash there. The same game parlays have been our bread and butter this season. Hoping to have one of those per night in the NBA because we really have had a good eye for those. But unfortunately, we do have to talk about some bad news here. The ride of the day. Now, I'm refusing to hit the womp womp, but my hand's going towards it because the rules are rules. We gotta listen to the womp womp there for the ride of the day. Jim comes with an absolute banger of a pick. We can admit that, but loses on the hook. Paolo Banchero over 27.5 points plus rebounds. The dude finishes with 22 points, but only 5 rebounds. What an absolute bad beat. I didn't want to give it the womp womp, but rules are rules. This was a great call. It looked like he was on his way to cashing this with ease. And then the Magic slow down, and the Mavericks start to heat up, and that game absolutely flipped on its head. So shout out to Jim for a good call, but we've all experienced those good calls that absolutely blow up in our face, and this was one of them. But I did love the spot here. If you guys do want to be the ride of the day and get a chance to get a shout out in the next video, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day, just like Jim did here. Give me an absolute banger of a pick, and I'll be giving one person a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Now let's go ahead and jump into today's games. Guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. You guys have been absolutely crushing it, and the support has been absolutely crazy. And you know, I'm just a dummy with a camera and a microphone, but you guys are the true community, and you know, makes the engine kind of, you know, turn here. So appreciate everyone tuning in each and every day. Let's go ahead and talk about this game. We got Charlotte taking on Washington. Right now, Charlotte's sitting at 4-point favorites. The total's at 240, which is a high total, but I don't necessarily hate it. I don't think I'm going to make it an official, you know, final play here, but I do lean towards the over just because you have the 5th worst defense in terms of points per game allowed in Charlotte, and then the worst defense in Washington in terms of points per game allowed. No duh, there's going to probably be some points in this game. These are NBA basketball players pretty much playing against, you know, snowflakes in terms of trying to score the ball. So I don't hate the over. It just seems like way too high of a number. The lean that I could get behind here is going to be Charlotte -4. This is a Washington team that is 0-4 on the road. Not that Charlotte's been all that great, but if we watched that Mavericks and Charlotte's game, and if you did watch it, Charlotte was winning like for 78% of that game, and then the Mavericks come back and end up winning it by 6 points. But Charlotte looked okay. They are without Terry Rozier, FYI, but I don't necessarily hate this spot for them. In fact, this is a garbage game, but I could see this being a final play, so keep an eye on the pinned comment. But Charlotte -4, I don't hate whatsoever. This is going to be a home and home, so Charlotte plays them, and then in a couple days, Washington's going to be home. Charlotte's traveling there, so I could easily see both teams that are home winning in this sort of a 2-game series here. So give me Charlotte here on the minus the points. Do I wish this was a little bit lower, 2.5? Yes, but I don't mind 4. I don't really like this Washington team on the road. The only thing that keeps me off this game is the fact that it is a pretty junky game, right? Like, do we really want to put our hard-earned money on Charlotte? Not so sure about that, but keep an eye on the pinned comment to see what we end up rolling with. All right, one of, if not the game of the night here. Phillies taking on the Celtics. Phillies are at home. They're 5-1 on the season, 6-0 against the spread. Boston also 5-1 on the season, 2-2 against the spread here. Philly undefeated at home. I'll mention that. They are getting points at home, +1.5, but I am a big Celtics fan, and I want to make it clear this isn't really coming from a biased standpoint, though I am a Celtics fan, so I'm kind of getting out ahead of it, right? But I think this is a great spot for the Celtics, coming off of a loss to Minnesota in which they could have won that game. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, no kidding. But I don't see the Celtics losing 2 games in a row, and you know that they are up for this game. Philly hasn't really been all that tested this season, and I'm not saying Boston has, but Philly at home, I think they might think they're a little bit better than they are, whereas the Celtics team is legit. Now, that sounds like some Celtics bias, but nonetheless, from a betting perspective, I do think that the Celtics is the move here, minus the 1.5 points. If this spread was anywhere like 3+ or 4, that type of thing, I might be thinking, okay, never mind, we're not going to roll with it. But I could see Boston minus 1.5 being a final play tonight. The play that I probably like more than anything is going to be a look at the over. Now, I think everyone and their grandmother is going to go, oh my God, what a crazy call. Are you kidding me? Over. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere and blah, blah, blah. I get it, but you have 2 offenses that are cooking here. This Philly offense, the 4th most points per game in the league right now through, 6 games, 3rd best field goal percentage. And while the Celtics do have a good defense, I think the Philly offense is better than the Celtics defense. Same rules apply for the Boston offense here. I think Boston's offense is better than the Philly defense. So you have 2 good defenses going up against 2 good offenses, but I can admit as a Celtics fan, this Philly offense is better than the Celtics defense. And I think the same should be clear in reverse here. So though I think a lot of people are going to be on the under, and it makes sense, I'm not going to knock that play. I think that this one gets up to that 230 mark. There's a strong chance we could have a same game parlay in this spot as well, because I think obviously the superstars in these games get up for this type of game after a day off too. I think we could see some good play out of Tatum, Embiid, that type of thing. So keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we end up rolling with either of these picks, but I could also see a same game parlay coming out of this game for us. And before we continue on, guys, I do want to shout out Sleeper. They have a promo square for new users going on right now. If you sign up today, you can get 100% of your first deposit matched with the link in the pinned comment, and you automatically are eligible for this Steph Curry square. Go check out Sleeper, guys. It's my favorite DFS pick'em app out there right now because each and every play has its own multiplier, so they don't follow the fixed payout structure like all the other pick'em apps out there right now. Go check out Sleeper, guys. I preach this thing all the time on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube because it is an app that I'm using on the regular, on the daily. Go check it out and get this Steph Curry square. You can combine 2 to 8 players in a player prop parlay. The more you hit, the more you get paid out. That much is self-explanatory. Go check it out, guys. 100% of your first deposit matched. Link in the pinned comment. You can throw in $50 and they're going to go, there you go, and you'll have a new account balance of 100. You go from double digits to triple digits. Go check it out. That is Sleeper. Link in the pinned comment. Now let's get back to the slate here. Indiana is hosting Utah here, and we'll start with the total. This total's at 242, and yes, it makes total sense why, but I'm going to fade the obvious pick here and actually lean towards the under 242. Reason being, you do have a Utah team that's not efficient whatsoever. So they do play with really high pace, not as fast as the Pacers, who are the fastest team in the league right now, averaging the most field goals, or on the season so far, averaging the most field goals attempted, field goals made, 4th in field goal percentage, scoring the most points. Like, I get why this total is where it is because Utah doesn't have a good defense, but you have a Utah team that is nowhere near as efficient as this Pacers team is. And it's not like this Pacers team is like super efficient. They're just doing a lot more quantity over quality, whereas I don't think that this Utah team is even at the quality that the Pacers are at. So I'm going to lean towards the under 242 right away. Could it be stupid? Sure, but these teams are due for some sort of an under here. 6-2 to the over here for Utah. 6-1 to the over for the Pacers here in this spot. But again, Utah, I just don't like this spot for them. They're scoring the fewest points on the road this season as well. That's going to matter a hell of a lot to this total. So I really do like the under. In terms of the spread here, -6.5, too big of a number for me to really consider this as a potential final play. But I do think the Pacers win this game. So not to, sound like a broken record here, but another potential spot for a same game parlay here. I could get burned. I could look like the idiot in the room for taking the under here, but I really do think that this could be a sharp spot, whereas, everyone and their grandmother's going to be like, yeah, these are two bad defenses and two, decent offenses. Let's go ahead and ride with the over. 242 seems too high to me, but give me Indiana as well as the under. I like the under more than anything in this spot. Next up, we have the Knicks taking on the Spurs. Knicks here on the season sitting at 3-4, as are the Spurs. But you have a tale of two different teams when it comes to pushing the pace and scoring points here. Spurs 6-1 to the over this season. The Knicks 1-6 to the over. Right now, the spread's at 9.5, and I think that's just a little bit too much. If this game even ups the tempo a little bit, which is much more like, I guess you could say, the Spurs play than the Knicks play, the Knicks being one of the slower teams in the league right now. If this even gets upped a little bit, I worry that the Spurs stay in this game for the Knicks, and it's such a good spot for the Knicks to have a letdown spot. Winning a 111-97 in their last game against the Clippers. San Antonio getting beat by 41, we already talked about it, against the Pacers. Seems like such a spot where San Antonio comes back with some, foam at the mouth, and the Knicks feel pretty good about themselves and get caught off guard. So I'm going to lean towards the Spurs here. I don't think they win this game. If they do, great, but I like the 9.5 points. That's too many points to be laying for a Knicks team that I haven't totally felt comfortable or figured out just yet. So give me the Spurs in this spot. And if I do think the Spurs are going to make a game of this, this should be a pretty easy over as well. Give me the over 224.5. And to be completely honest, Wemby playing in Madison Square Garden, there's going to be a lot of cheers for him in the Spurs as well. So though it's a home game for the Knicks, and I'm sure it's going to be a home game, don't get me wrong, but there will be some excitement for the Spurs as well. This isn't just like seasons past where the Spurs come into Madison Square Garden, right? This is going to be a spot in which, there's going to be a lot of people there eager to see the new phenom. All right, Brooklyn taking on the Clippers. Sort of the Nostradamus in a sense. I said that Brooklyn would be a good against the spread team. They're 6-1 through 7 games. That person in me wants to say Brooklyn keeps this game close, but that spread ain't too big. So I don't really know where I come out on the spread side of things here. I'm going to stick away from it, but what I don't mind whatsoever is the over 226.5. This is a Brooklyn team that, yes, their defense is pretty good, but no Nick Claxton still. He's out for a while. I like this spot for them, and they are a 10 times, I'm making that number up, but a much worse defense so far this year at home than on the road. So give me the Clippers here, who are second in field goal percentage on the season. In terms of points scored, they're a top 10 team as well. Give me them to score at will here, and hopefully Brooklyn kind of keep up with them as well, and we cash in over 226.5. I think that this one, if it does hit the over, it blows away the over. So this is either going to be, a tale of two tapes. It's going to have a game in which I'm terribly wrong, and we're looking at like a 201 finish, or I think we literally get up into the potentially 240s here. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. Pretty decent chance that this over does become a final play if I'm not lying to you guys, which I don't. I do think that this could be a final play. All right, next up, we have Chicago taking on Phoenix. I'll be honest and jump right out here. I don't think anything in this game becomes a final play. Just don't really love this spot for either team. Maybe the under here because I don't trust either offense all that much, but no Booker, no Beal. The spread is kind of weird to me that the Bulls are favored. Maybe just because they're home. I don't really love this spot, but give me Phoenix on the money line because you might get some plus money, right? And then the under 222.5, but I doubt either of those become a final play if I'm being completely honest, because we just haven't seen any true consistency out of either one of these teams. They're both coming off of I guess you could say, quality win. The Bulls beating Utah by 17, Phoenix beating the Pistons by 14. Sure, take it and run with it if you want, but this is a Phoenix team that we need to see get healthy before we start talking about being able to easily clean up some bad teams. So I'm not trusting it right now. I'm sticking away from it. But again, gun to my head, I'm going Phoenix money line because you'll get some plus money and there's value there, and no chance am I taking Chicago money line for minus money, right? So Phoenix and then as well as the under, but I doubt either of those become a final play. Just me being completely honest. All right, guys, if you are not using OddsJam, you are missing out on some of the best sports betting tools out there to help people like you and me beat the books. You can use the link in the pinned comment, get 7 days free. Why wouldn't you try it for 7 days, right? 7 days free, but additionally, using code GUYBOSTON when signing up for a subscription, you can get your first month for 25% off. OddsJam has a couple cool tools I'll take you through real quick. This is the Plus EV tool right here. You can get the best prices out there, and obviously, you know, that is the way to profit long term here. For example, this hockey play right here, over 3.5 shots on goal, plus 125 over on BetMGM, average sportsbooks odds at plus 113, DraftKings plus 114, Fliff plus 115, that type of thing. MGM, the best price. You can see the expected value that you have there as well. So make sure to go check out OddsJam, guys. They also have an arbitrage betting tool, which if you don't know what arbitrage betting is, this is where you're truly missing out. First quarter total points in this NCAA football game, you could take the over 9.5 on FanDuel for minus 122, and then the under on DraftKings at plus 124. No matter what the outcome is, you make profit. They have a calculator that helps you figure out how much to put on each as well. And then what we love, the old faithful optimizer. We just hit a 5-for-5 esports slip a couple nights ago using the optimizer. I don't know esports through a hole in the wall, right? But what it does is it compares prize picks lines to all of the sportsbooks odds, so you know the value you have heading into prize picks. They do it for underdog, parlay play, sleeper, thrive, all the apps out there, jock market, if you do want to check it out. Again, that link is going to be in the pinned comment. Check out OddsJam, guys. Huge tool if you do want to be a true profitable sports bettor. I highly recommend it. Now let's go ahead and jump into this Houston and Lakers game. Now, not to put back-to-back games where I don't really love this spot for either team here. I'm jumping into back-to-back games where I don't love this spot. This Houston team has kind of surprised me, so I'm going to lean Houston. Do I love it? No, I just let the cat out of the bag, right? I really don't, but I don't necessarily trust this Lakers team either, and Houston's at home, and from what I've seen with those losses we've taken with the Kings bet, right, like they actually look like a decent basketball team. Like Alpi Sengun looks good, Fred VanVleet, like this is a team that looks like they are okay, all right, I should say. No Anthony Davis is questionable here with a groin. I think he came out of the game in the middle of the game last game, so enough to not play the remainder of that game. Now he did have obviously a rest day here, but yeah, I don't trust much from the Lakers here, and the Houston Astros, what a dummy I am. The Houston Rockets have kind of surprised me. They're 3-1 at home. Give me them here. Total sitting at a questionable line here, 219.5. If you were to not tell me any sort of a line, I probably would have had this game pegged much higher. So I'm going to stick with my gut here and look at the over 219.5, but something about reading that line tells me that this game's going under just because it's set so low. But again, I'm going to trust my research and data and models and say that this one's going to go over, but because we're line reading that kind of counteracts it, we probably stick away from it. All right, OKC taking on Cleveland. We already saw this matchup earlier in the year. I think it was the second game of the year for OKC, and it was the second or third game for the Cavs here. This was a game in which the Cavs were home. Now OKC's obviously home here, but OKC getting 2 points at home, total sitting at 230.5. Last time they played, there was a decent amount of injuries, most notably no Garland for the Cavs. Now everyone should be healthy. Gilgeous-Alexander's back, Allen's back, as well as Darius Garland for the Cavs. So this should be a closer game. Do we have the cojones to trust that this this Thunder team can kind of run the Cavs out of the game? I think we do. I like catching the points at home. I'm waiting to see sort of what this Cleveland team turns into with their guys being back. We did see them get the win against Golden State. Good for them. But even OKC outscored Atlanta without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think that he played, if I remember correct. Or maybe he did play, actually. So he was out before that. But still, they outscored Atlanta, who's also a team in which, hard to run with. So give me OKC here running, the score up, and Cleveland not being able to keep up with that pace, as their offense really hasn't clicked yet this season. In terms of a total 230.5, I'll also take the over here. I know we saw a game that was low scoring, like 108, 105 first time they played, but this is in OKC, and I think that they're going to dictate the pace, which means it's going to go over. It truly has to. Their defense isn't all that great, but what they're doing right now is outscoring opponents. Milwaukee at home taking on the Detroit Pistons here. 12.5 points is the spread. It's a little too close for me. a little too much for me, I should say. I think the Pistons keep this within that. No chance, I'll be honest, no chance I'm taking those points and making this a final play. I can already jump out and say that, but I also don't trust the Bucks just yet to cover that line. They're only 1-4-1 through 6 games against the spread here. Better at home, but yeah, I don't necessarily see this being like a Bucks team that's firing on all cylinders just yet. I think they'll get there, but I really just don't have that trust in them just yet. So I'm sticking away from the Bucks side of things, laying 12.5. So by default, I am leaning Pistons plus 12.5. Over 229 is probably where my potential final play could come from. I don't think that either one of these defenses has looked good to start the year. Obviously, we know that this is I guess you could say just a Bucks team that has the talent to go and drop a bunch of points. So if the Pistons even keep it remotely close or anything like that, we could be looking at a game in which, sees 120 to 110 or something like that, right? Which does cashes over just by a point, but that type of thing where it's still Bucks command the lead and command the game, but Pistons keep it close enough. Or if you're saying I'm crazy and that the Bucks going to blow them out, then this Pistons team is mediocre enough on both ends that we could still see them score over, 1 to 105 type points, and Milwaukee goes off for 125 or 130, that type of thing, if you really believe in the Milwaukee side. So again, I'll lean towards the over here as probably my main lean here, but I don't mind Detroit plus 12.5. I just don't know if I have the whats to make that a play, to be completely honest. All right, Memphis taking on Miami here. Memphis did get their first win against Portland a couple nights back. Miami coming off of, I guess, what you'd call a good game against the Lakers. They win 108-107. They end up not covering because they were 1.5 point favorites, but still a decent win in which a lot of people were backing the Lakers in that spot, right? So I'll give them a little bit of credit there. Right now, Memphis getting 1.5 points at home. Total sitting at 220.5. I don't really trust Memphis here. I don't trust Miami either, but I do think that they have a little bit better of a comprised team, if that makes sense. So give me Miami in this spot. Again, -1.5 is a huge factor here. If Miami was like -4.5, -5, it's probably a don't touch and stay away type game, but essentially picking Miami to win here, money line, I don't hate that. Now the total sitting at 220.5. This should go under. Two teams that really are not all that efficient on the offensive end to start the year, right? But this is either going to be one of those games that goes under, like according to plan, or we're going to see like 250 out of them. So I'm more willing to bet on the under. That does have a chance to be a final play, as both of these plays that I'm talking about here do. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see, but yeah, I'll take the under. But again, like something about this just smells like it's an obvious under, so it's going to be like a 265 type of finish, something crazy. All right, Minnesota taking on the Pelicans here. This should be a game in which, Pelicans keep it close, but I don't know if I'm ready to kind of fade Minnesota at home yet. By the way, fademe.store, great merch out there right now, guys. Go check it out. That is the store for the channel if you do want to support. We got a bunch of Guppy merch as well, the Guppy cross out like I'm wearing, but fademe.store, go check it out if you do want to support and become one of the real ones. But nonetheless, I don't think I'm ready to fade Minnesota at home yet. They're 4-0 at home. They're allowing the fewest points to opposing teams in the entire league right now, and allowing the lowest field goal percentage. Like, you gotta trust that to some degree. So, as much as I did want to be like a contrarian and back the Pelicans in this spot, I don't think that I can do so, especially with CJ McCollum and the collapsed lung still, right? With no timetable for his return. So, if he was playing, maybe I back it, but I got to trust this Minnesota team who's coming off of a big win against the Celtics in overtime, and they're at home here. So I do think, and at home still here. So I do still think this is a good spot for them. So I'll go ahead and take them here. -6 points. Seems like it's a lot, but they are good right now. They truly are, and they're 4-0 at home. Total sitting at 220. I think I'm on the under here as well. I think that this is a team in which, like I said, if they just do what they've been doing, they're barely allowing anyone to score on them. League average at 113.3 in terms of points against, right? Minnesota at 101.2. Like, what are we talking about here? And this is a bottom 10 offense from the Pelicans as well. So this should be an over. It's a low line at 220, but I don't hate that whatsoever. Mavericks at home hosting Toronto here. Mavericks 5.5 point favorites total all the way down at 222, which was my immediate sort of like, whoa, Like, that's a low number, right? Which I guess makes sense. Toronto, not nearly the scoring team that the Mavs have been this season, but Mavs at home, like, I have no problem with taking that over 222. This is for sure. I know I mentioned it a couple times already. This is for sure a potential spot for a same game parlay because I love the over in this spot. Now, you have a good Toronto defense. I'll give you that, but I don't think that they match up all that great with the Mavs. And I think the Mavs do score a decent amount in here. So until further notice, and again, I don't really love this Mavs team. We've made money betting on them this year, but I don't love how Luka just hasn't totally looked like 100%, even though he's had a crazy start to the year. But there's multiple pockets of time that he plays during games. And if you've watched Mavs games, you'll know what I'm talking about, where he just looks sluggish and not involved and whatever the case may be, right? And yet he'll still drop like 31, which is crazy. And then Kyrie, like, I'm not the biggest fan of. Again, I told you I was a Boston fan, but I'm not ready to fade just like Minnesota. I want to, but I'm not ready to fade Dallas just yet. So minus the 5.5 points sits well with me. In terms of the total, again, I think that this is a spot in which points could be scored. Toronto's defense, sure, I'll give them the credit that they deserve, but we saw, 160 in San Antonio dropped on them. The Philly Sixers dropped 114. Milwaukee dropped, I think it was 111 or something, right? Like, they've been allowing over 110 pretty frequently this season, 4 of their last 5 games. So if they're allowing that to slower paced teams, I do think Dallas has a good chance of scoring a lot of points in them, meaning Dallas can cover as well as hitting that over. All right, guys, Sacramento taking on Portland. This is an emotional spot for me. Sacramento's burned me a couple times here, absolutely scorched me, so I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Portland plus the points. Is that the smart play? Should you bet with your macho ego? No, you definitely shouldn't. But I just can't get behind Sacramento minus 9 points after how they've burned us yet. So I don't know if we make it a final play. If I'm crazy enough, we'll sound the psycho alert alarm again. If I'm crazy enough, we might go ahead and, take Portland plus the points, but I don't really trust that as of right now. That being said, they've won 3 of their last 4 games. I don't necessarily think that the competition has been there like Toronto, who, yes, I'm giving a little bit more credit to as the season goes on, but Toronto, Detroit, and then Memphis 2 times, like, right? But Sacramento, those 2 losses to Houston, 107-89, and then 122-97. Yikes. And then we had the over in the first game as well, which that finished out again way under that. So I'm fading Sacramento for right now. Maybe if they get De'Aaron Fox back fully healthy, I think he's supposed to get back like late November or something like that with an ankle sprain. We shall see. I will say Scoot Henderson's questionable for Portland, and Robert Williams, I don't know if you saw the news come out, but yikes, looks like he could be out for a while requiring knee surgery there. But give me Portland here. In terms of the total, 220.5. I like the over, but we've also looked at a couple overs for the Kings, and they've burned us as well. But still, Portland, if they keep this game close, it probably hits the over. All right, like I said, we have a couple game of the nights here, right? This obviously being one of them. Denver, the reigning champs, taking on the Warriors, who don't have, a shortage of championships recently themselves either in the last decade. But right now, Denver sitting at 3.5 point favorites. The total sitting at 227.5. I have a feeling this is going to be a spot where people try and outthink themselves and look at the Warriors and take them, right? Plus the 3.5 points. But I haven't seen anything out of Denver that makes me want to look the other way just yet. And they've played some good basketball. And they're not only beating teams, they're crushing some teams. And Golden State, though they are playing good basketball as well, a lot of their games have been fairly close. So what I will say is, yes, the 3.5 points looks tempting to take for Golden State. If you're on the Golden State side of things, I would just take the money line, because if they win this game or if they keep this game close, they're winning this game. Okay, I'm confident in that. Plus 145 for the lean there, for the money line there. If you are interested in that, what I'm interested in is the Nuggets. I'm waiting to see until further notice that the Nuggets aren't just unbeatable at home right now. And they're 5-0 at home, so they are unbeatable at home right now. The one caveat is that the Warriors 5-1 on the road here, but this is just a Denver team that I'm not ready to look the other way from just yet. I think a lot of people, like night one, I even said that, they may not play as great as they played last year because it would take a little hangover and building up to. They've looked good, right? The only team that's beat them has been Minnesota, who we just talked about their defense, and that was a game in which Denver just looked off. So yeah, give me Denver here minus the 3.5 points. I like them on the spread, but again, if I were to be looking at the Warriors in any way, shape, or form, I think I'm just going to take a peek at them on the money line for the value, because I think if they come and, it's going to be a quote-unquote good game, I think the Warriors pull it out, but I think Denver wins this one by 5+. In terms of the total, 227.5, I also think this one goes up and over the mark. I think a lot of people are going to be on the under, so we may be doing the opposite of what plenty think here, but in terms of what we've seen from these teams as of late, and in terms of the last 2 years, they've hit 7 out of their 10 overs against one another, and they've always been sort of ish the same team, right? Two teams that everyone's like, oh, they're defensive and offensive, blah, blah, blah. A lot of points is the thing that's going to win these games more often than not. So I'm going to go ahead and take the over 227.5 as well. And guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's video. Nice and long video. If you're watching this still, which I don't think anyone is, call my bluff, right? Go ahead and comment 30 because you made the 30-minute mark, which that is a long time for you guys to be watching. If you are, thank you so damn much. Thank you so much. It means the world to me that you could be watching 30 minutes and listening to this annoying voice for 30 minutes, what some people keep calling auto-tuned, which I'm just not auto-tuned. I have a good mic and a good soundboard. That's about it. Maybe it sounds better quality than normal, but nonetheless, guys, comment 30 if you're still watching. Appreciate the freaking hell out of you if you are truly watching. I'm going to pay special attention to see who's commenting 30, so I know the absolute real ones, and I know you'll never be a damn guppy. Even if you are a guppy and you're watching, fine, you're a real guppy then, but we'll catch you guys in the next video, all right? Peace out.